Hello students and namaste everyone. I am Dhaval Sir and your today's topic is your second chapter of social science, that is what is around us. If you read out the chapter, in the first paragraph you will notice that there is a conversation going on between a boy named Dhanvin and his mother. So one day when Dhanvin was moving around, he got curious and he asks his mother as to what is the land made up of. So, to explain this, the mother replies Dhanvin with a story about the evolution of the earth. The mother says that every day when we wake up and we move out of the house, the first thing what we notice is the sun. So, the mother further says that even the sun, like us, has its own family, which is known as solar family, and the earth is also one of the member of that solar family. Further, the mother says that the main thing or the important thing to know about the solar family is that the earth is the only planet in the whole solar family where there is a suitable temperature, air, water, and the atmosphere to sustain life. That means the earth is the only planet which is suitable for living beings. As we all know that except earth there is no life on any other planet, right? So that is the introductory part. Now we'll come to the second paragraph. So, generally, it is believed that a part of a sun which has been detached from the sun after the collision. So, it is a story which is millions of years ago, that even the earth is a part of a sun, right? When the sun burst out, from that small parts came out, and that later on cooled down and formed the planets. So, that is earth is third planet. Okay, at that time of its origin it was in the form of a fireball. As we all know that sun even today is a fireball because it is very much heat and it has not cooled down. But the planet earth, after getting detached means separated from the sun, it started cooling down. Okay, so that will read further. The fireball started to cool down slowly, right? Many elements of the earth got transformed into liquid and further into solid form. So, as we all know, that the earth, after getting cooled down, right? So, as and when it started cooling down, it was a very long process. It took millions and millions of years. So, as and when it started cooling down, right, different elements were formed on the earth. Okay, so first element what was formed on the earth was liquid. Then the solid was formed. Okay, so during this process, the elements which got transformed into solid are known as lithosphere. Right. So when the earth started cooling down, the solid particles were known as lithosphere. The elements which got transformed into liquid are known as hydrosphere. Hydrosphere means the water. The elements which transformed into gases came to be known as atmosphere. So this is the actually main paragraph which gives us about the introduction of the whole chapter, right? The elements which transformed into gases came to be known as the atmosphere, and above all the living world, right? We are living in the world which is formed with the combination of atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere. So with the combination of these three different layers forms the biosphere where all the living organisms live. Okay, so it is given that above all the living world which developed due to land, water, and air came to be known as the biosphere. In this way, the four spheres came into the existence on the earth. Okay, so here in the given picture, you can see that is the upper layer, that is the atmosphere. Then the water is given, which is known as hydrosphere. And then you can see the land surface, which is known as the lithosphere. And with the combination of all these three layers forms the biosphere, where we all living organisms are living. Then the first paragraph is about lithosphere. So what is lithosphere? That we'll study in the detail, right? So different spheres of the earth's explanation are given. So first explanation is about lithosphere. The sphere on which we live is known as the lithosphere, that is the land, right? So litho means rock and sphere means layer. Okay, so that is the meaning of the word lithosphere, right? Litho means rock and sphere means the layer. As we all know that the earth is made up of different layers. Okay, the upper part of the earth is made up of solid and solid materials like a rock. So approximately 29% of the surface of the earth is covered with lithosphere. As we know that the whole of the earth, right, is made up of water. So there is the maximum part of the earth is covered with water, that is 71%. And approximately 29%, that is the remaining part, is the lithosphere or the land area. So this layer is almost 64 kilometers to 100 kilometer thick. So this is about the thickness of the earth, right? The layer, that is the land surface on the earth. The thickness of the lithosphere is not the same everywhere on the earth, right? So many a times if we move on the surface of the earth, we find that there are some plains, that is the flat surface, then there are some plateaus, then there are some mountains, hills, sea and everything. So everywhere where we go, we don't find the land area equal. It is unevenly distributed whole over. Okay, so the land area is not fixed. At if we go at different places, the land area is different. Somewhere it is steep, that is deep. Somewhere it is plain surface. Somewhere it is a plateau, and somewhere it is a mountain. Okay, it is the mostly made up of substances like soil and rock. So that also we know it very well. Now, in the next paragraph, we are given about the description of the layer of the earth, that is the lithosphere, that what does it contain, right? So, landforms like mountains, plateaus, plains, and valleys are seen on the lithosphere. The temperature increases as we move towards the center of the earth. The molten rocks in the interior of the earth are known as magma. Molten means it is a semi-liquid, right? So it is not very much thin. That is known as molten. Molten means semi-liquid. So the molten rocks in the interior of the earth, that is the rocks in the liquid form because of the heat, right? Extreme heat, the rocks which are in the molten form are known as magma. There are many gases present in the interior of the earth which rise up with pressure and heat, right? So we know very well that the gases, they keep on rising. So what is given, that there are many gases present in the interior of the earth which rise up with the pressure and heat, but the pressure of the rocks of the surface of the earth is equally strong. So we know that still in the interior of the earth there is too much heat, right? I can give you one example. When before many years there were earthquakes in Gujarat, right? At that time, at many places, there were some cracks developed in the surface of the earth, or uh, on the surface of the earth. And at that time, when the cracks were developed, at some of the places, some gases came out, because we know that in the interior, that is inside the layer of the earth, that is inside the earth, there are still many gases due to the hot temperature inside. right? Because as we know that the upper layer of the earth has already cooled down, but inside the earth it has not cooled, and so it is still very hot inside. Okay, so it is given that there is a pressure of rocks of the surface of the earth, and there is a pressure of the gases which both are in the balance, right? If the balance between both breaks up, that is, if the pressure of the gases increases, then it will try to push the surface of the earth upwards, and if the pressure of the air increases, then the layer of the earth which is in the balance will break up, right? So many a times we experience events like earthquake also. So thus the further line says balance between the two is maintained, so the crust of the earth does not break. When the balance between the two is not maintained, the crust breaks and a volcano erupts. Okay, so that is about the lithosphere. Now, Tanvin asks his mother that how is the lithosphere useful to us? So we all know that our Earth's land, that is the lithosphere, is very helpful to us, right? We cannot imagine ourselves without the lithosphere. Our houses are built on lithosphere, we do farming on lithosphere, we build roads on the lithosphere, right? So there are many different points which are important to us, which we get from the lithosphere. So we'll see the paragraph. Where can we construct our home if the lithosphere is not there? Without lithosphere, how can we get water to drink? Again, a very important point. When there is a rainfall, all the water falls on the land and ultimately it flows into the sea or a river, and many a time means, and most of the water even gets drained inside the earth, that is the underground water. Okay, so again an important point. Then agriculture for food, we do farming on the land from which we get our food. Then minerals, yes, again an important point, that is the minerals for industries, right? So all the minerals what we get from the earth. And the forest, so we know that forests are helpful to us in many different ways, so even the forests are found on the lithosphere. So now we'll move ahead. Next layer is the hydrosphere. So as we have already discussed that hydrosphere is the layer which is made up of water. So hydrosphere is the liquid component of the earth. It includes the oceans, seas, lakes, ponds, rivers and streams. On the surface of the earth, the area of water is more than that of the land. So as I've already described in the beginning, that 71% of the land is covered with water, and approximately only 29% of the earth is covered with land area, right? A water body is in hydrosphere that carries a huge amount of water is known as the ocean. So we can say that the huge landmass are known as the continents, and the huge water bodies on the earth are known as oceans. These oceans are the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. So here four oceans are mentioned. Still there is one more ocean which is known as the Southern Ocean. So there are total five oceans. And as we know that the Pacific Ocean is the deepest ocean in the whole world. Okay. All these oceans are connected with each other. The water bodies close to the land are known as seas, bays, straits, gulf, etc. So there are these are the different bodies of water. The ocean on the earth are huge and deep, right? So as we know, it is very deep inside the earth. Valleys with depth of 10 to 11 kilometers are located at their bottom. So even oceans are many kilometers deep inside the earth. The ocean bed means, as we all know that the water body, right? So it is whether it is a sea or the ocean, it is not floating on the air. The water also needs some base for itself to float on. So Below the water also there is a land surface which is known as ocean bed. So the ocean bed has similar features like that of the surface of the earth. It has high mountains, plateaus, vast plains, valleys, etc. So it is saying that even the surface of the earth which is below the water, that is oceans or seas, even has plains, plateaus and mountains. Okay. Now, in the next paragraph, again Dhanvin asks, Mummy, how much water will there be in the seas? Since sea water is salty, is it useful to us? So here the mother says, yes, oceans contain 79% of the total amount of water on the earth. Right? So out of the 100% water, first I told that on the earth is divided into two parts, that is land mass and the water mass. Land mass consists of 21% 29% approximately, and the water mass consists of 79% approximately. So out of the whole water available on the earth, that is the 100% water, 97% of the water, that is the total 97% of the amount of water on the earth is found in oceans. Okay. Then approximately one third of the remaining water, that is out of the remaining water, that is the 3%, 97% water is covered in the oceans, and remaining 3%, out of that one third is trapped in ice caps and glaciers. Ice caps and glaciers means at the mountains, at high peaks, there is extreme cold, and due to that, even there we have seen that there is the water which is uh, freezed and which forms a glacier. Right, we go, if we see the Himalayas and different mountains, so the mountains are covered with snow, that is the ice cap or the glacier. Some water is accumulated in the lakes. Okay, so that is the lake means a depression or the low-lying area where the water gets accumulated. And some flows in the river and some is stored in the interior of earth as groundwater. So as I have discussed in the previous paragraph, when there is a rainfall, most of the water gets flown away, right? It moves to the seas or the ocean, and the some of the water gets drained in the interior of the earth, that is in the form of groundwater. The amount of potable means the water which is fit for drinking, is less. Right, so here it becomes very important for us to understand that the fresh water for us to drink is very less, and it is very precious, so we must not waste even a single drop of water. Right, so the fresh water is required by living beings for their existence. Right, we cannot imagine our life without the water. The moisture for rain, which is the main source of fresh water, comes from the oceans only. Right, so though the fresh water is less, but the oceans and the seas that has the maximum amount of the water on the earth, they are very important source for us, because from that oceans and rivers and seas only the moisture, that is due to the heat, the evaporation takes place and the moisture is formed in the atmosphere. Right, you might have studied about the evaporation and condensation process. So the same thing happens over here, and the moisture which is developed for the rain, right, so that water gets evaporated from the oceans only. So therefore oceans are also very important for us. Valuable chemicals, minerals, salt, fishes, etc. are found in the sea. So if we go to the sea areas, nearby the sea areas, we find lots of minerals. Even salt is also formed from the water only, as we know it. Right, as we have living organisms on the land, in the same way the sea and oceans have aquatic life inside them. So we know that many different creatures that are living inside the water also. Tremendous force of waves, tides and current of oceans are potential source for generating electricity. Besides, these oceans are also helpful as waterways. So we know that from the tides and waves, we can generate electricity, which is known as hydroelectricity. And even these oceans are helpful to us as waterways. That means many a times we have seen many ships and large vessels moving on the water between different countries also. Okay. Now we'll study about the third sphere, that is the atmosphere. So basically what is atmosphere, right? So atmosphere is the layer which is formed around the earth, right? In which different gases are formed, some dust particles are formed. So that consists of the atmosphere. And as we know that the earth is the only planet in the solar system which has the atmosphere, and due to the presence of that atmosphere only we all are able to live and sustain our life. So we'll read out the atmosphere. The sphere of air that wraps the earth, wraps means it is covered around the earth, okay, that wraps the earth from all sides is called atmosphere. It extends approximately up to 1600 kilometers from the surface of the earth. It cannot be seen clearly, right? We are having different gases, that is like oxygen, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, helium, etc. So even though these gases are present around us, we are not able to see these different gases. So it is said that it cannot be seen clearly with the naked eyes, that is through our eyes directly we cannot see that, like lithosphere and hydrosphere. So we are able to see the land, we are able to see the water, but we are not able to see the atmosphere. Atmosphere is composed of various gases, water vapor, dust particles, smoke, salt, microorganisms, etc. So these are the different things which can be seen in the atmosphere. Okay. Atmosphere is colorless, so there is no particular color. Odorless, odor means smell, so we cannot smell it. And transparent. Okay, atmosphere is colorless, odorless and transparent. Transparent means which we cannot see through. Okay. Solid, liquid and gaseous elements are included in the atmosphere. How? So the dust particles in the atmosphere are the solid particles. Then we know that the water, right, it gets evaporated and it is turned into moisture, which is the liquid particle, and the different gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, hydrogen, which are in the gaseous form, are present in the atmosphere. It contains approximately 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 1% other gases. So, this information you already know and you have already studied in your previous classes. When we go higher from the surface of the earth, the amount of most of the gases in the atmosphere decreases. Carbon dioxide gas is heavy, so it is found more in the lower layer of the air. So from this I can give you one example, that as and when we go higher and higher, right, on the surface of the earth, the gases, that is the amount of gases on the surface of the earth, becomes lower and lower. It becomes thinner and thinner, right? So that is one of the reason why when the mountaineers, when they go on mountains like Mount Everest, they have to carry oxygen cylinder with themselves, because it is situated at such a height where when you go over there, the oxygen starts getting thinner and thinner. Okay, so that is one of the example. Then it is given that ozone gas comprises of a very small proportion in the air. And as we know that ozone gas is very important for us, because it is the only gas, right, because of which ozone layer is created around the surface of the earth. And when the sun rays falls on the surface of the earth, This ozone layer absorbs the rays of the sun. That is, from the rays of the sun, it absorbs the ultraviolet radiations, that is known as the UV rays. When these ultraviolet radiations are absorbed, the human beings are safe on the earth, because if this ultraviolet radiations falls directly on the earth, if it is not absorbed by the ozone layer and if it falls directly on the surface of the earth, it becomes very very harmful to the human beings. And due to that, if there is a contact of UV radiations on the human beings, then the people might form skin disease or even skin cancer, right? So ozone layer is very very helpful to us. So we'll read about that. Ozone gas comprises of a very small proportion in the air. This gas absorbs the ultraviolet rays, that is the UV rays, from the sun and protects the earth from excessive heat of the sun. This gas is more in proportion in the morning, in the open ground, and in the air near the sea. So that was about the ozone gas. Okay, and as we all know that due to the excessive heat on the earth, due to the pollution on the earth, this ozone gas is decreasing and the layer of ozone has started breaking up, and that is one of the major reason why we are facing extreme heat on the earth. Okay, now further there is a pie chart given where you can see that different gases are there. That is 78% is almost nitrogen, 21% approximately is oxygen, and the other gases, that is the carbon dioxide, helium, and other gases are 0.98% on the earth. So gases like oxygen and nitrogen keeps the living creatures on the earth alive. Nitrogen reduces the intensity of oxygen. Water is the most important component in the atmosphere. Due to heat, the water in the form of vapor evaporates and mixes with air, which is known as moisture. So that I've already explained you in the previous paragraph, that from the oceans and seas and rivers, right, due to evaporation, the water gets evaporated and it gets converted into moisture. The process of cooling of vapor is called condensation. So you know this whole process, you have already studied in your science, that whatever water gets evaporated in the form of gases, it moves higher and higher on the surface of the earth, and then when it reaches at some height, right, as in when we move higher and higher, the atmosphere starts cooling down. And as in when it starts cooling down, and when this vapor, which is in the form of a gas, uh, reaches over there, it comes in contact with this cool atmosphere, it again gets condensed, which is known as condensation. That means a tiny droplets of water is formed from that vapor. Various forms of moisture like dew, fog, clouds, and precipitation. Precipitation means rain, are due to condensation. Right. So as I was explaining that small tiny droplets of water are formed. Then in the air also there are dust particles. Right. So these tiny droplets of water along with the dust particles, they combine together and they form clouds. So they keep on filling in the cloud, that is the small drops, they come in the contact with dust particle, clouds are formed, and the cloud keeps on filling itself with this small tiny particles, and as and when the cloud becomes very heavy, it releases the water in the form of a rain, which is known as precipitation. The effect of atmosphere is seen on human beings in every aspect of life, such as in their food habits, clothing habits, color, economic activities. So, as we know, due to the atmosphere present on the earth, we can even see different atmosphere. There is different seasons, right? Hotness, coldness, rainfall, etc. So due to that, there is a effect on the life of the human beings, right? So because of that, there is a change seen in the food habits of the people, right? The food the people eat at cold places are different than the food the people eat at hot or the warm places, right? Their clothes are different. Okay, so that is it. Many dust particles are seen in the atmosphere. So, this paragraph, which I am going to read now, gives us the importance of the atmosphere. How is the atmosphere helpful to us? So, as we know that many dust particles are there or present in the atmosphere, it helps in the spreading of sun rays. So, we can see the sun rays spreading in the atmosphere uh, or it's spreading on the earth due to the presence of dust particles. So if the dust particles were not present on the earth, we would not have been able to see the sun rays the way we are seeing it right now. So spreading of sun rays are visible due to these particles. It is due to dust particles that it does not suddenly turn dark after the sunset, and it does not suddenly turn bright after the sunrise. So as we have seen the process of dawn and dusk, right? Dawn is in the early morning, that is when night is about to get over. Slowly, and gradually the darkness starts going away and the brightness comes, right? So that is possible only because of the dust particles, right? Immediately it doesn't turn dark and immediately it doesn't turn bright. Okay, the sun rays are reflected back with the help of these dust particles on the surface of the earth, and we receive the light of the sun. We are able to listen to the sounds due to the presence of atmosphere. Yes, so whenever we speak, we are able to hear the voice of different person, different things. This is possible only because of the presence of atmosphere. If there was no atmosphere, we would not have been able to listen anything. Okay, and due to the presence of atmosphere only, we are able to see the Doordarshan telecast and listen to the radio live, right? So that is why radio and Doordarshan telecast is possible. As we all know that our satellites are placed in the outer surface of the earth, which is known as space, and from there we are able to get the radio transmissions, and even the telecast of our TV is possible due to that satellites only. Okay, then we'll move further. So human life and spheres, right? So you can see a woman washing clothes or sitting near the water body, that is hydrosphere. Then some birds, clouds, and the aeroplane is there, which shows or gives us the idea about the atmosphere. Then you can see the buildings, houses, trees, and the surface of the earth, which is lithosphere. And the combination of hydrosphere, atmosphere, and lithosphere, which is the biosphere, where the all the living organisms exist. Okay, so we'll move further. Next is the very important sphere, which is the biosphere. The part of lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere where the living world exists is known as biosphere. So, biosphere is one of the important sphere of the Earth. Earth is the only planet in the solar system having biosphere. As we have discussed in the beginning of our chapter, that Earth is the only planet on the solar system which consists of life. Okay, and that is due to the presence of atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere, and due to the combination of all these three spheres, the fourth sphere which is formed is your biosphere. So biosphere includes vegetation, animals, insects, and human beings. We obtain food and many other necessary things from biosphere. We cannot live without vegetation and animals. Biosphere is the base of our existence and living. So biosphere is divided into two parts, right? Basically, in this sphere we can see the living and the non-living thing. Lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere forms the non-living part, while plants, animals, and microorganisms are included in the living world. So as we have seen that the biosphere consists of land, water, and atmosphere, right? So those are the non-living things, and the living things which the biosphere consists is of plants, animals, and the microorganisms. Okay, now we'll move further. So this is the picture, right, where different components of biosphere are given. That is the nature, right, the clouds, the gases, right, then factories, roads, people are seen. Okay, so these are the different components of biosphere. Now, effects of human activities on spheres. So as we all know that the human beings, due to its aggressiveness to become more and more independent, to earn more and more money, they have developed factories, they have developed roads, they are spoiling or polluting the environment. So here you can see the factories, right? Then there are some birds, right, house, then water pump is there, fields are there. So these are the different activities which is carried on by the human beings on the spheres of the earth. So we can see that human beings knowingly and unknowingly undertake many activities for their development. Human actions causes an imbalance in the different spheres, right? As we know that human beings are creating a lot of pollution, and because of which there is imbalance in the nature. Due to this, the balance of various spheres is threatened. Underground nuclear testing, too much drilling for mineral oil, and excessive drilling of tube wells affect the lithosphere and causes an imbalance. The dumping of waste means whatever waste we are creating, right, the people, they create into dump yards. Then when the dump yards are also overfilled, this waste is thrown away or it is dumped into the seas and the oceans. So the dumping of waste from the villages and cities along with industrial waste into the water bodies pollute them, right? So when the uh, waste materials from the chemical factories and everything is dumped in the water bodies, even in the water bodies there are lots of aquatic life, right? So their life is in danger, and because of this pollution many of them die away. The polar caps have started melting. Polar caps means the ice or the glacier which is formed at the mountains. Okay, so the polar caps have started melting due to the increasing heat. So as we know or we have learned about the concept of global warming, due to the pollution, the amount of carbon dioxide is continuously increasing in the air, and the carbon dioxide gas has the tendency, it has the capacity to absorb the heat. So as more and more amount of carbon dioxide is increasing, the more and more it is absorbing the heat, and the heat is not again released back out of the atmosphere, due to which the heat remains on the earth, and due to it the temperature on the earth is continuously rising or increasing, and due to that the glaciers have started melting. Okay, the oil spills from ships and disposal of industrial and chemical waste into the water causes the destruction of marine life, which is highly dangerous for the hydrosphere. So that also we have discussed. So that causes water pollution. Harmful gases emitted by industries, workshops, power stations, and vehicles pollute air. That is, again, air pollution. The areas with the higher frequency of vehicles show increased rate of carbon monoxide in the air. So, students, the gas which is coming out of our vehicles, many a times you might have seen some old vehicles throwing out black color gas, or many a times we have seen the factories, from the factories the chimneys they throw out extremely black color air which is carbon monoxide, right, which is extremely dangerous for all the human beings. The amount of CO2 is carbon dioxide in the air, increases due to the cutting of trees. How the cutting of trees? As we know that the trees are the only thing which on the earth produces oxygen for us, right? And if we start cutting the trees, then the amount of oxygen will get decreased, and the amount of carbon dioxide will keep on increases, which is very harmful for us again. So heat on the earth increases due to increase in CO2, that is carbon dioxide in the air. In this way, human activities affect the biosphere. Okay, the nurturing links of nature and endangered due to exploitation of environment, which endangers the biosphere. So we are told about the human activities, that due to this activities, the environment is getting exploited, it is getting harmed, and which is very dangerous. Okay, so here our chapter gets over. I hope you understood the chapter very well, and thank you so much for watching my video.